So what if you could just replace every single traditional belief system, all of them, with one single unified scientific worldview? Well, that is the absolutely massive goal of Maitreya Maitreyan's book, For Humans to Know. In this explainer, we're going to unpack its bold arguments, its surprising strengths, and, yeah, the central flaw that kind of threatens to bring the whole thing crashing down.
What's the meaning of life? Where do we all come from? I mean, these are the questions humans have been wrestling with for, well, forever. And it's this deep, deep curiosity that Maitreyan's book really taps into, promising a whole new way of understanding our place in the universe.
And the goal here, it is nothing short of revolutionary. The idea is to create a complete replacement for traditional beliefs. The book tries to weave all of science, all of history, all of philosophy into this one definitive, modern scientific worldview. It's just a massive, massive undertaking. And honestly, that ambition really defines the entire work.
Okay, but before we start picking it apart, let's give credit where credit's due. To really get a handle on the book's failures, I think we first have to appreciate what it actually gets right.
First off, the book is actually brilliant at making these really intimidating subjects feel, well, accessible. It breaks down cosmology and biology in a way that pretty much anyone can grasp. It also does a really thought-provoking job of connecting a huge range of topics. And you've got to admire its courage. It pulls no punches when it's challenging these huge, established ideas about God and human nature.
But beneath that really ambitious surface, there's a critical flaw. And it's one that kind of undermines the entire project. Let's call it the reductionist's trap.
So, the book basically wants us to believe that this entire beautiful, messy tapestry of human experience, our art, our love, our politics, our compassion, can all be boiled down to just a few simple biological drives. But is that really the whole story?
And this right here is the book's core engine, biological reductivism. The author takes our territorial instincts and our basic drive to reproduce and then uses them as the ultimate explanation for, well, pretty much everything. It becomes this single, powerful lens that the entire human story gets forced through.
The source material puts it perfectly. Trying to explain humanity this way is like trying to understand the symphony by only looking at the vibrations of a single violin string. You lose all the nuance, all the complexity, all the beauty. You miss the music entirely.
So, the problem isn't just what the book argues, it's also how it argues. The author's tone often crosses this line from a confident argument right into, well, outright arrogance.
You see this aggressive style pop up in a few key ways. Instead of actually engaging with complex ideas, the author just dismisses them. He often builds up these straw man arguments, these weak, super simplified versions of what other people think that are just really easy to knock down. And as we're about to see, this approach leads him into some pretty major logical contradictions. I mean, for example, entire fields like psychology are just casually labeled half science. Centuries of philosophical thought, they get waved away as sheer idiocy. Look, this isn't a healthy debate. It's more like intellectual bullying. It feels like it's designed to shut down the conversation, not open it up. And here's a perfect example of one of those contradictions. The author spends all this time condemning that tribal us versus them thinking that's plagued humanity forever, but then he immediately creates his own super stark divide. There's the enlightened, rational us who get his worldview, and then there's the traditionalist, ignorant them who don't. He falls into the exact trap he warns everyone else about.
And this pattern, this misrepresentation, it's not just about style. It leads to some genuinely dangerous oversimplifications when it gets applied to really complex historical and social issues.
You see this pattern play out over and over again. When it talks about religion, the book attacks a caricature of it, ignoring centuries of really deep theology. Its take on Marxism twists fundamental concepts just to fit its own narrative. And maybe most troubling, its view on colonialism dangerously minimizes the atrocities and even claims it ultimately made the colonized territories richer.
So all this flawed thinking leads to some really, really disturbing conclusions. The author actually proposes that native communities should be relocated if their land has valuable resources, all for the sake of greater economic gain. It's precisely this kind of cold, utilitarian logic that has been used to justify immense suffering and injustice all throughout history. So where does that leave us with all this? After looking at the good, the bad, and the genuinely problematic, what is the final verdict on For Humans to Know? At the end of the day, it's a deeply flawed book. Its conclusions are just warped by reductionism, by arrogance, by bias. But, and this is a really important but, that doesn't make it worthless. Its true value isn't in the answers it gives,
but in the questions it forces us, the readers, to ask. It's a powerful catalyst for critical thinking.
And that, brings us to a final thought. The book tries to build a complete worldview, even if it is a really flawed one. Which kind of begs the question, right? Is it better to have an imperfect framework for understanding the world, or is it better to have none at all? It's a fascinating question to chew on, and it's one that gets to the very heart of why we seek answers in the first place.